right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm starting. Management was like, "Are you starting at all?" Yeah, we're here. Oh my goodness. How is everyone doing? Let's give everyone a chance to get their notifications. We're going to be talking to my favorite group, the Galactic Council of Nine. I've been channeling them since age 5. They are a group of interdimensional time travelers, ascended beings, and galactic fleet commanders. There's 9 of them from various galactic places in the world. They are guardians of this planet, and they are highly interested in helping us in our ascension process and protecting us as well and guiding us in our ascension journeys. So there you have it. Many people often ask me to start out with some sort of an explanation of the Council of Nine and who they are. So there you have it. I will tell you guys once, just once, if anyone asks me any questions about Biden or Trump or anything from a political perspective, you may get a temporary timeout. You may get, if Anya is feeling generous, you'll get a temporary timeout. And if my moderators are feeling not so generous, they could ban you. So no trolling no asking for explanations of anything with politics. We're going to be talking about timelines today, and we have already talked about how and why the timeline shifted with politics a good while ago, and you can see that video. I did that one not too long ago for you, so you can go look at that video now if you feel like I owe you any explanations. The end. Yeah, is it all? We just don't have time. This is a very sacred space, and we're going to be looking at some different things that have nothing to do with that and everything else to do with interdimensional visitors. We're going to be looking at the scientists behind Skinwalker Ranch. Are they just looking for a nice TV show? Are they in it for the money? Are these electromagnetical anomalies that we can describe from the physics perspective? We're going to be looking at all that from the perspective of the Galactic Council of Nine, and then I'm going to be answering your questions. So I'm going to be looking at the 4 theories that are generally circulating, all right, about the Skinwalker Ranch. I'll give you some background for those of you who don't know it. I've spent a lot of time in my life in Utah. So it is in northern Utah, I think out by Vernal somewhere. And it's kind of this real dead in the middle of nowhere place with not a lot of activity except the galactic activity, the time portals, and the scientists who are attempting to understand the anomalies that would be going on this property. So it absolutely fascinated me. You guys have been asking me about it for multiple years. I know the History Channel did a whole, expose about it. My wrist, oh, it's still there. Yeah, I can almost make a fist. It's so close, so close. I've come a long way. Look, but I can't move my fingers up. I don't have full motion. Got another surgery coming up August the 7th, so you don't have me back fully until I recover from all of this mess. So anyway, with back to the show on the History Channel, an astrophysicist, I believe it's Dr. Taylor is his name, and many other scientists and I think an anthropologist. We don't talk about Candace Lindy is kind of underrated in her presence there in the anthropology of the land and what she feels about it. I don't get to hear a lot from her on the show. I would love to interview her and kind of run some of the Galactic Council's theories about what's going on from her perspective. Quite honestly, she felt to be one of the most authentic people that I really enjoyed watching on the show when I was learning about it. All right. I actually, because I lived in Utah for almost a decade, I drove through the property but didn't stop. And I'm so sensitive as a channel to electromagnetic activity and anomalies that I knew it would not be in my best interest to stop. nor would it be in light of physical safety. It wouldn't be a really good idea. So, for that reason, I did not stop. Yeah, I'm not sure that I put everything on the right cameras or anything like that um, before I started. So I'm hoping that all of you can hear me. I forgot to do a little sound check before we got started. So here's let's go through the theories. Some of the theories are that the scientists are just lying because the History Channel paid them, and this you know I believe Brandon Frugal is the investor who paid these scientists to to some of the get behind some of the mysteries of the anomalies of the ranch. And some people are feeling like they're lying to get money. The council doesn't believe that to be the case. And when I brought that to them and I just asked the Galactic Council of Nine, would this just be something because, you know, otherworldly activities appears to be a popular thing in the algorithm of everything, from streaming services to popular anything that's popular in the world right now on TV. And they just didn't think so. And when I watched the show, I did not, as a channel myself and a person who's preen to understand when someone's lying, I just did not see that in any of them. I did feel by observing, and the council did as well by observing the give me the names, guys. I forget the names because it's been a while since I watched the show. The security guy. When I was watching him, he seemed to be continually baffled and he didn't want to believe. The scientist, Dr. Taylor, he didn't believe when he first started, and he's a believer now. But the security guy, when I observe him, he seems to be just done with people not believing, and he also seems to be done with the whole experiment. Like, he has this energy of, "I am done with the show and people's interactions with it. I'm done with people not understanding the danger of it." I got that impression from him, right? Dragon, yeah, he is a fascinating character, and the council's read on him is that he somewhat wants the show to be over. He's done with people not mm, taking the credibility of the ranch seriously, and people kind of just wanting to use it to get their own attention on the media. Kind of done as well with the way that the team is being operated. I could see right through him that he's a little exasperated with the way that the team is running, how they work together, and how sometimes how they don't. So I didn't view that so much as skepticism. I viewed it as, okay, let's respect what's going on here. People can be hurt, and I'm responsible for it, right? Um, Dr. Taylor was a complete skeptic when he started, and anyone could read that, psychic or not. And the council watched me observe that, and they were like, look at him becoming less of a skeptic. Look at him. He cannot explain from human science these anomalies. So I don't think that they're just out to make money, or at least they didn't start out that way. Is it helpful to fund the team that they're gonna get money? Sure, and they are absolutely 100% capitalizing on that, and they should be, because it is gonna take a lot more attention, to continue to fund these very expensive, explorations. So in terms of, are they trying to get money? Sure, but not for the reasons that you think, not for fame and glory, but to actually find out, right? So the council pretty much debunked that theory. Lying, absolutely not. Trying to get money, yes, but not necessarily for the reasons that you think, not for any negative reasons, right? Okay, extraterrestrial visitors. Yes and no. There's one particular part of the property that captured most people's attention because it was mapped out, and you guys could see um this person who does this thermodynamic mapping of the property. I don't remember his name, but he was a scientist that came in and did this the mapping, and he could see this spiral based energy going up. And I was so happy during that particular part of the show, because then I could talk to the council about what I was seeing, what they were seeing in the funnel of portal energy, going all the way up right in front of the triangle portion of the property. And also during a certain, like right in the center of the triangle, right in front of the triangle, about 180 degrees left and 100 degrees right of the triangle. All of that area, 180 degrees in front, to the left, to the right, and in the center of the whole triangle itself, there appears to be a portal energy that is used for time shifting and time bending. And those are just human words that the council gives us today to try to give a bit of interesting perspective on what's happening, right? Because people have to come in that they described it as an interdimensional time station. So you're going to get both extraterrestrial visitors and interdimensional visitors. So what the council means by interdimensional visitors is that they are actually parallel versions of humans that are already alive right now, but it's the future version of them. So people are able to travel back and forth in time, um, and to come back and forth. So there's a lot of secrets to this. There's some government agenda there, that's not going to be told. The Pentagon's never going to come out with this information that the council's giving us today, and I don't know honestly if it's ever going to come to light. If anyone's ever going to find out about it, other than perhaps Brandon, if he's been told, but maybe both Brandon and Dr. Taylor were likely told that they can't express anything that's going on with the Pentagon's involvement in the study of the property. But some of the government officials there are actually utilizing that property to be able to bend time. And they were doing that well before Brandon and the team came onto the site, before he hired his group of scientists. The Pentagon was using this property since, gosh, at least 20 years before, um, what is his name? The other investor, Dr. Bigelow, got his hands on it, or if he's a doctor, I don't know. Robert Bigelow got his hands on that and started a big discovery on his own. The Pentagon, again, once got involved. He found out information that he was able to scientifically verify. But then when he got involved, when the Pentagon got involved with him and completely put a halt to his work, he was told to walk away. And no one's really going to ever tell you that. He's not going to tell you that. He's been mum about it. I don't know how much he's telling Brandon, and I don't know how much Brandon is going to tell you, particularly since the Pentagon got involved with um, the property. But about anywhere from 15 to 20 years before Mr. Bigelow even came on the scene, the government was using that portal, that swirly portal that they were able to scientifically capture with their mapping. That young lad there, what's his name? The young scientist who was doing the mapping. Names aren't, I'm not good at it. But when he came about and we could actually see it, the portal, that's interestingly enough that shortly during that time, right before that time, it was interesting to the council that that's when people found out that Dr. Taylor was involved with the Pentagon, and he was um, under legal obligation to keep it under wraps and not tell the rest of his team. Like, why is that? That tells you that the Pentagon knows, and they have, according to the council, they've known about that for 15 to 20 years before Dr. Bigelow, and that they were using that time bending portal to be able to visit other galactic environments and to also be able to visit other realms of time. So sometimes when you think that perhaps these ships that you're seeing going in and out of the mountain there are actually going to other galactic realms, that could be true, but it's realms in the future, and it's realms where the government has already created in their secret space programs um, a bunch of different places where they have explored and created life on other planets. And what I mean by life on other planets, you're not going to be able to measure that. Our science right now can't see or measure interdimensional existence of anything outside of our own time. So we will never be able to verify this with our human science while I'm still alive. Like our science just isn't there yet. But they're using the portal primarily and have been for a long time to shift time, to bend time, and then get to other parallel realms. And then they can operate in that realm and they can live in that realm for lengthy periods of time, build life in those realms, and then travel back to this realm of time. Do you understand what the council is trying to share with you? They're going back and forth in time capsules. Overall, it's a parallel realm, and their galactic science understands that. The future of humanity understands that. So it's like future you operating with current you and going back and forth. They're teletransmitting different messages back and forth. But that portal is messing with the electromagnetic properties of Earth itself. It is the primary portal for that center. It's been there for thousands of years. This is not a new portal. It wasn't created because of the curse of Skinwalker itself or some of the stories that you're perceiving, but we will go over that at a certain point in time. Primarily speaking, it's been there a long time, and again, people are using it to travel to other realms of time. And 20 years ago or so, before Bigelow, government officials were going to other bending time and going into the future, building life on other planets, um, utilizing the particular science that would be involved in interdimensional travel, and then coming back with that same version of themselves. They come back and then give that engineering and science of the time bending, of different craft, science of space travel. They give that all that information, you know, to the Pentagon, um, to Dr. Bigelow, to all those people who were studying it. I believe that the project got taken over and Robert Bigelow just probably walked away. It got so convoluted and so many hands involved in this project that he walked away. The Galactic Council feels like he was told to walk away, but also it's that there's only so much that you can do with that technology in terms of what are we going to do with it we can't reverse engineer. Our environment isn't actually set up to be able to take the technologies that say your future self when you travel to another realm. Trying to get those technologies back has been a challenge. And then understanding how to break through the fabric of the time space distortions, like without actually causing further damage to the property, to the people of the property, to the animals of the property. It's like every time they do that, it shifts the fabric of time and space itself. And this is where Dr. Bigelow likely walked away, because it was causing all sorts of other anomalies, not just on the property, but people were getting hurt as they were studying it. People are still getting hurt as they're studying it. And so many things are going on. So interdimensional visitors from another realm. But again, they started out here in a certain timeline, moving into the future, gathering all the information and trying to bring it back to our governments now, right? And those are incredible secrets that aren't fully the science isn't able to be utilized fully without really creating deeper problems because every time we do this kind of shift, it changes. You can't just keep breaking holes in the fabric of time and space without having severe electromagnetic repercussions to the planet, not just the property, but to the planet. So there's so much meat here in what the council's sharing. Okay. So yes, interdimensional visitors, but not exactly visitors. Yes, extraterrestrial help, because in the process of that time travel, of course, we met the people traveling and breaking the time space fabric. They met, not only were they able to go and create life on other planets, they were able to see what happened to Earth and to come back and say, okay, all these other beings can see what happened based upon where we are now. can all these other beings can actually look back at what happened to Earth and perhaps give us some advice on what we can do to avoid certain things. That's being studied right now, and that's been helpful. The extraterrestrial beings have been helping. So you have initially it was Venusian galactic beings that were helping. They are incredibly scientific and benevolent. But then there were also some malevolent extraterrestrial beings that got involved with the project, as you suspected that the council would divulge. And they are, as you likely know, Alpha Draconi. So when the Alpha Draconi got involved, they are also involved at the head of our governments, particularly the US governments, but they are involved in military operations of governments around the world. So the project had to halt because when you start to think about those beings, and if the world begins to discover humans that are also extraterrestrial, right? If the world begins to discover that leaders of our government are wrapped up in human skin, but are actually deeply both benevolent and malevolent, and that you have a lot of malevolent forces, beings from other realms, coming back through that portal, taking strong seat in governments, um, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem. But this property precedes us, and it precedes even the timeline that I've given you today. So this has likely been happening for a very long time. You're talking, for those of you who understand and believe in Atlantis Lemuria, you're talking shortly thereafter. These could have been the same visitors that Egyptians saw. These particular time travel portals, these time bending portals, are not unique to Utah. They also exist in Egypt. They exist all over the world. But if used improperly, it could break the fabric of the time space, and that would be a distortion that would cause too many problems. And even the Alpha Draconi know that, which is likely why the team at the Skinwalker Ranch got so many issues with people watching them, and the Pentagon watching them, and eventually the Pentagon pulling on their main researcher and having him vow secrecy, which was really when I could see that the whole time that he was involved with them. And then when he came out, and then the rest of the team was giving him the eyeball, like, well, why didn't you tell us? And he's like, I'm legally bound to not tell you. It's like you understand the semantics behind it, but then typically speaking, when our government gets their hands on different projects, you start to wonder, okay, what's going to happen now? So we're off the deep end now, off the deep end. So rather than believing, and this is what the council is asking you to consider, rather than believing that UFOs are arriving from another planet, it's that this is a parallel dimension. These are parallel universes. And now the government has formulated a use of this portal to be able to build our future, to prevent us from absolutely desecrating our planet. But then when Alpha Draconi get their hands on this, could we be headed towards interdimensional war if they don't want us to do that? If their intentions are malevolent, could we um, be using the portal for not so good reasons? That's highly likely, right? So that's that. Another thing I wanted to talk about is some of the geophysical processes which cause the brain to see things that aren't there. And I saw it when I was observing the team and having the council put in their input while watching the show. The council said, look at that, he's hallucinating. Do you see it there? We don't see it there. What he's saying is there is not there. So while we have this other disturbance, while this interdimensional portal is being utilized continually all the time by not just humans, but future humans, and um, future and past just become a conglomerate at some point in this experiment, but by all sorts of Alpha Draconi, by Venusians that are still using the portal to come back and help us. Um, you got the Venusian base that we didn't talk about. That's in the mountain there. That's right there in that little mountain. That portal that's on top of the mountain, we can talk about if you want, but ultimately speaking, that is it was an originally a Venusian base for Venusians to help the planet. It is now an Alpha Draconi base, and of course, they don't want you getting into it, which is why you have all of this geomagnetic processes that affect the brain, cause the brain to hallucinate. Radioactivity comes up from certain patches of the soil all over this property. People get damaged. You saw one guy get a damage to his skull, and like his skin got pulled apart from his skull, and another portion where Dr. Taylor was you know, having this radioactive energy coming up from the ground, right? And it was observable. That wasn't just a hallucination. So then you have that. You have some hallucinations, and then you have some actual geophysical activity going on because of too much use of the portal. And when you have too much breakdown in the fabric that binds time and space, the land begins to shift. The hologram begins to break down, and then you get leaks through Earth. Does that make sense? You get the Earth shifting so much the tectonic plates begin to shift. But aside from that, um, the energy of what's underneath these portals begins to shift. And that can be measured and observed in our science, and I believe that it was very well observed and measured with the Skinwalker Ranch team. Okay, so that's where you get years of radiation coming up. You have crafts hidden there as well. There's so much going on because in the interdimensional problem, where you keep bending the time space and breaking through the fabric of time space, you have these visitors, the benevolent Venusians and the malevolent Alpha Draconi, and then you have the humans that are just trying to get information and learn. You got all this going on. Um, when the Alpha Draconi came, some of that craft they weren't able to get back. They weren't able to get back through. Some of those beings stayed, and the craft itself, when it comes to Earth, there's so much gravity that the craft can't manage the gravity. The craft will become wreckage. And the council says that then people will need to hide that craft. No one wants to see the damage that's been caused, right? Some of that craft actually killed some indigenous beings on the property. And I believe that the indigenous people of the property believe that there were spiritual occurrences and spiritual reasons for some of this, but these were just malevolent and benevolent forces taking place of people come, some of them wanting to come to help and some of them wanting to come to harm. And, you know, you have the Utes, you have I believe the Navajo on the other side of the fence. And it wasn't just that they were arguing, it was just they were seeing these crafts. One indigenous group of people believe that it is that everything's for the good and it's all spiritual and it's godly and it's connected to source. And another indigenous group believes that it's going to tear the world apart. And these two tribes are fighting and arguing. One tribe says, okay, this craft, when it crashed, it killed half our people. Um, this other craft, when it crashed over here, it leaked radioactive material into the waters, into the earth itself, um, all sorts of things, right? There's that going on as well. So some of that radioactive stuff is in the water up underneath the property. It's in the tunnels up underneath the property. It's in the earth because those crafts have been buried there and they are continuing to leak radiation, um, and not just radiation, but just all sorts of things. Some of which cannot even be described. Some of these gases and toxic compounds can't be described by human science, but the result would be radiation damage, as was what was witnessed with Dr. Taylor when he stuck his head over that hole in the ground, right? So much going on. So, and it's all I think what people are trying to do is they're trying to make it all make sense to be one thing happening, but there are a plethora of things happening, some of which we can describe to you, and some of which are so virtually unbelievable, as you've witnessed in this channeling today. So, so much, so much, so much. Okay. Um, there Some people are saying there is a theory that there are too many tectonic shifts, but I didn't witness the team noticing that exactly. What they witnessed and said and what they were able to measure were like geomagnetic fields that affect the brain when they were in that certain geomagnetic field. So, of course, they witnessed UFOs, but those UFOs were not all, again, they're not all extraterrestrial. They are mostly interdimensional time travelers, some of which are human, many of which are Alpha Draconi, because Alpha Draconi have a certain body set where they can handle going from different environments and different realms with oxygen, without oxygen. They're set for that. They can do that. Um, but we had to make it to a state where humans could do that as well, the council says. So the council's been involved in this. They are aware of these activities. The council's worked with the Venusians to provide a way that humans could understand their future. And the council's been on the Venusian team trying to protect this property for a very, very long time. So that's my take on Skinwalker Ranch. I'm now open to bring the councils to bring the questions that you have to the council and to field them. All right. 1.6. We'll start with that question. The 1.6 gigahertz is it's a timestamp as well as a communication. It's just like a communication signal that lets one realm know that the other realm is receiving. They're like, okay, open to channel. That's pretty much what it is. It's just oh, we got it. You're sending and we're receiving. That's all that it means. You sent, we received, or we're sending, please receive. It's just something that many of the interdimensional time travelers that use this portal um, begin to know how to create that frequency to get the scientist's attention and to get other humans' attentions. It's not necessarily to get galactic attention, but it's a signal within each other. What is hidden beneath the mesa? It is a base, a military base that is known. The Pentagon is aware of it, but they're not able to access it because the Venusians quarantined the entire area a long time ago, and only the Alpha Draconi are currently accessing it. But humanity is aware of it. Like our human scientists and researchers are aware of it. At least the Pentagon is highly likely to be aware of it. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Questions. Skinwalkers are absolutely real. They're not just legends, but they are not just one thing. They're not just one thing. Some of the beings that came through the original craft that crashed into the planet and then had to be hidden by our governments underneath the properties of Skinwalker Ranch, those crafts held types of beings that are um they got warped in the process, their bodies got shifted, they had a lot of radiation damage from their own craft, and then they stayed, and they've been here for a very long time. The indigenous people know about them. They stayed, they adapted, but they are extraterrestrial in nature. You know, some of them Alpha Draconi, some of them because, again, this is like an interdimensional airport, if you will. The whole base is like that, so any being can come and go at will if given permission by all of the councils that govern that. If given permission from our galactic council, if given permission also by the beings that operate the base, um, yeah, then those beings can come and go. But some beings had to stay. They had to say they could not get back. They adapted and they preferred to stay. They preferred our planet, but they're having a shape shifting experience. They can be there and then suddenly disappear. Now, keep in mind, um, those extraterrestrials that came in that crashed in those original two There were 2 large crafts that crashed that are being hidden up underneath that property, one in the mountain, and one over by, Homestead number 2. Um, those 2 craft, according to the council, again, had these beings that became mutated. They could stay on Earth, but they weren't exactly set. They weren't Draconi and they weren't Venusian, but they were beings who were trying to use the portal, but their bodies weren't really adapted perfectly for that. Okay. So that's going on. This property, here's another, and those beings stayed. Those beings stayed for a very long time. They're still there and they're called skinwalkers, but there's another type of skinwalker there as well. Okay, so I'm digressing a little bit. I'm going to back up. Those particular types of skinwalkers that crashed in those 2 crafts, they were extraterrestrial beings with mutated bodies who couldn't handle coming into Earth. Their bodies weren't, they shouldn't have used the portal. They got stuck. Um, they can't get back because their bodies have shifted and become so much related to the 3rd density, but they still hold the capacity to shift. They can shape shift, they can blend in to the environment, they can look like a portal, you know, and then suddenly use force to actually collapse the ground. They can shift their energy. They move in portals all around the properties. Um, They were the ones that utilized the portals and shifted into portal-like effect and then, killed the Sherman's dogs. Those were the beings that did all those things. Those beings can create, geomagnetic disturbances to warn you, because you're getting too close to the craft, and they know that if you actually reach the craft, that our governments would not like that. Our governments do not want you to find that craft. They don't want anybody to find that craft. This is deeply buried. It's beyond even what you would think. It's beyond just American governments. There are many governments involved in this property. And there's only so much for all of our safety that the Galactic Council is going to tell us tonight. All right. But those skinwalkers are there. And because virtually everything that I'm telling you is unbelievable, it's coming from what science would consider a lack of credible sources. I can talk about it safely because no one's going to believe me. I'm getting this through a channeled source itself. And then I'm trying to observe science that I don't understand because it's interdimensional and you are as well. So you have those type of skinwalkers that stayed, they stayed when their 2 crafts crashed in those 2 locations that the council mentioned. But you also have beings that crashed and they were more animalistic and they came from other galactic environments and they were able to also shift time so that the animals that were around them, which would be considered, I guess some of those animals would be considered extinct, like one of the wolf creatures that they found. Um, when keeping in mind that these crafts have been landing sometimes successfully and sometimes unsuccessfully for thousands of years, there's a lot to find on this property. And some of those beings could shift time while after they crashed, while they were on Earth. So when they crashed and when they improperly came through that portal and had severe damage both to property and to themselves, they stay, and these particular kinds, they could shift Earth itself through another timeline so that the animals around them could live longer. The certain properties of Earth that are very, very ancient could still be held, certain metallic things, metals that haven't been around for a very long time. The council says those what we would consider perhaps extraterrestrial things and things that would be a part of UFO craft. Those properties, those trace minerals that were around thousands of years ago, they could hold that in sort of like a time container, and they could hold the animals around them in a time container as well and make them live for thousands and thousands of years because those beings can also use the portal to make them, I don't want to say immortal, but to make them break the laws of time so that those animals and beings could live longer. So you have many beings on the property that are doing that, including that's why they found, I don't know what that wolf was called that they found, but that's why they found that, because the beings that originally came were able to shift time so that that being could live longer. Yeah. Okay. How do you know if you've seen a skinwalker? You don't. But you will know in a sense because it's different. They're not necessarily benevolent. Those beings on the property are not always malevolent. Some of them are, but they're not benevolent either. They're in survival mode. They don't want to be seen. Most of them are afraid. They'll run away. But if you get too close to that craft, they will switch and utilize the properties of the portal. They will switch on whatever they have in their field to to shift the properties of the portal so that there could be a geomagnetic disturbance, and then you would physically or mentally hallucinate, or you would physically be affected and hurt. And they could kill you if they wanted, but they don't necessarily want to. They just want you away from the property, because you don't understand what you're getting into. They want you away because you won't understand what's going on, and it will physically affect you and mentally affect you. And some of them don't want the crafts to be found as well. There are many, many, many reasons behind this. Okay. Yep. If you guys will keep the questions on par with the actual property, that would be super helpful. You can ask about the scientists, the show itself. You can ask about any of the anomalies seen there, and the council can explain it to you to the extent that we can, because again, there are multiple things going on, right? Then you also have the deceased spirits of the indigenous people who are there and wanting to scare you away and protect you. And you have the indigenous spirits of the beings that were harmed and are not at rest. You have um, the original people on the land that came after the indigenous beings, the white people of the land after that, who lived in those properties. They were deeply hurt, and they don't want you on those properties, so they want to frighten you away as well. So you have the paranormal activity around in Homestead too going on as well. Yeah, and that is more from the spiritual aspect versus the scientific aspect, if that's makes sense to you, you know. All right, questions. Do you have any before we close today? The dire wolf, that's what it's called. I believe that the dire wolf DNA has or will be, the council says it either has or will be proven. Like some degree, it has been proven. There has been some evidencing, but it's not explainable, which is why the History Channel may not be given the information. And there's only so much that, as long as their head scientist continues to work with the Pentagon, that's going to likely be kept under wraps. They're not going to want you to know that that has been evidence already. Yeah. Can they erect an invisible shield to protect things? Absolutely. And they did that often. And that was very much evidence. You would see those rockets going up and then it would hit off something. The shield around the portal protects you from accidentally entering it, because if you enter it, you're going to time travel. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to be stuck in another realm of time. And you won't come back. So then there's that. If you don't know what you're doing. So yes, there are invisible shields that come up automatically, and that's some alpha draconian technology there, and it would prevent both the helicopters from flying over the portal and getting too close to it. It would prevent the rockets from going so far. The owner of the ranch is buying up property on Hawaii. It is related. I'll tell you that. There is another portal that is very similar. They're buying up properties with those portals as much as they can to continue to study it and to get that interdimensional and extraterrestrial information and just see. Bigelow wanted to reverse engineer some of the technologies that he found out, but the government did not want him to do that. So there's a lot. It's a lot that happened and a lot still going on. Let me see. Yes, we already covered there is a base under the mesa. It was originally Venusian, but is now Alpha Draconi. You don't want to find that. You really don't. They're not nice beings. Um, are there any other known places similar in other parts of Utah? Not exactly the same, but there are. Utah's a hot spot for that, and Nevada is as well. Why don't they want the craft to be found? Because they can't explain it. People could get their hands on it and reverse engineer certain things and utilize it for their own benefit. It's anything that's not really able to be explained, your government doesn't want you to have. I mean, that's just a given. Yeah. Are the skinwalkers carnivores? Yeah, they absolutely are. Let's see. I'm just reading through some of your questions. Well, how has the property remained privately owned instead of the government? Well, that's the million-dollar question. The council feels that some of the privately owned property, some of the property owners will work with the government, and it's just the government can pay them and they can work together um, to get to the technology. So the landowners want funding to figure it out. And the government wants to play along. They're, "Oh, yes, we're in out. We want to give you the money. We want you to figure it out. Come tell us what's happening." They know what's happening. But they have the money to string you on a wild goose chase. Absolutely. And then any new information that you do have that gets you closer to the truth, they could confuse the crap out of you and, continue to pay you money to give them information. And so it's kind of like the council says it's kind of like the theory of keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. They've known what this property is and what it does and how to utilize it for a very long time. But yeah, not even the scientists know exactly what's going on. They feel like some of those scientists feel like they believe the Pentagon in those funded experiences and experiments. So there's a lot that isn't being told to these scientists, and the Pentagon will continue to string them along. I actually haven't watched Beyond Skinwalker Ranch yet. I would have to kinda look at that and ask the council about it, but we haven't really dug that far. We watched all of the original Skinwalker and asked the council about it, but we haven't dug into the Beyond Skinwalker properties yet. Let's see. And it became a little bit silly at some point. I think there was, like, one thing actually that I watched with Beyond the Skinwalker, and it was a similar portal, but it also had so much malevolent, in paranormal activity from, like, demonic things switched into it as well, which I didn't sense, nor did the council sense a lot of demonic activity going on with Skinwalker Ranch. Versus there's only one thing that I remember watching with Beyond Skinwalker Ranch, and there was more demonic activity than interdimensional activity. Yes, there was a portal, but the demonic activity would keep you away from it. And the demonic activity had actually killed this poor lady's husband on this property in this cabin, and she won't step foot on the property, and she's remaining anonymous. So that's a completely different thing. The portal was similar, but the demonic activity also pretty much holds the energy of the land there in that other property. And that's really the only one that I watched that the council was able to comment on, but it was creepy. I don't like to get involved with anything demonic or even looking at it. I just kind of back up and go, yeah, not my realm. Do all governments know about ETs and portals? The council believes that absolutely all of the larger governments are well aware. Let's see. How is it affecting us as a collective and what can we do? Another $1,000,000 question, Pearl. When you break through the fabric of the time space so many times, um, it does shift things. It's not great for the planet. It's not great for the animals. It's not great for, um, it causes a lot of activity and shifting of Earth itself. Um, it causes weather disturbances. It can cause a lot of health issues for the people living near such portals, not necessarily for those of us who are pretty far away from it, but it can cause, a lot. Many people are very sensitive to these sort of anomalies, and it can cause a lot of mental and physical health disturbances for people living on the property or nearby the property. Yeah. Is it like the Bermuda Triangle? It is very, 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 very similar. Absolutely. That's another portal, but because of its location, many people don't access it. Why are they secretive about it all? Because our governments believe that we can't handle the truth. They also believe that if we get our hands on some of that technology, that we could hold a lot of power, and that could be true as well. And they don't want other governments. It's a safety consideration as well. They don't want, our government would consider it like a national safety consideration because if other governments got a hold of it, they could use the technologies against us. And that's the primary reason why our government would attempt to protect us from this knowledge and information. They would consider it a national security threat. Even though the other governments know about it, they don't hold as much access as the US government does to it. It's very held by US government primarily. And US government doesn't want any governments to get the information, even though many governments have information from their own portals in their own countries on their own lands. So, um, the portals were created by extraterrestrial involvement in activity. Absolutely. They're not human created. They're not natural to the land. They're not natural to what we're here to do. There's a reason why we were born in amnesia. There's a reason why many people don't remember their past lifetimes. There's a reason why um, we don't just travel to the future back and forth. There's a reason why normal people don't travel throughout time. It is exceptionally dangerous, both mentally and physically, for the common person. For the common person. Let's just call it as it is. For most people, their bodies aren't ready, their minds aren't ready. You still have people that believe that their unique religious perspective is what created everything. And as long as we continue to fight about God and religion and things like that, we are, according to our extraterrestrial guardians, we are not really able to handle the information. Let's just look at that logically for a moment, right? So I time travel, but I have been preened for it my whole life. It doesn't make me special. I'm sure there are other people that do it, but it has been exceptionally dangerous. It has affected my body. It has caused a lot. That's why I don't teach time travel. I don't teach by location or time travel. I didn't have to have access to portals or interdimensional technologies. It's something that was taught to me by the council. But are they gonna teach absolutely everyone? No, because not everyone can handle that. Their bodies can't handle it, their minds can't handle it. It would take the majority of most people's lifetimes to be able to handle that. And there's a reason why um, we have a certain mindset where we are tuned into time and we have a perspective, kind of like a little radio channel that we tune into that we remember. Not that we're not meant to remember our past lifetimes, we will, but tampering with the future in terms of traveling there is a completely different thing. It's a completely different thing, right? Completely different than remembering our past. And this is what these properties are doing. They're going into their future, creating other worlds, creating other Earths. Um, They're getting these technologies and then coming back and bringing the technologies that they've created, some of which have been beneficial and some of which have been harmful. So that this portal has been used for both harm and for good. This time travel has been used in so many ways, right? This time travel has killed a lot of people, and this time travel has healed a lot of people. So, of course, the governments aren't going to share that with you. If you start to learn how to bilocate and time travel, you're not actually all doing what you're here to do. We're here to remember our past, to be empowered in our present. We are here more for the spiritual component of awakening. We're not here to be in the future. We're here to be in the now. We're not here for that, right? So that's them answering your question. We're not here for that. But yeah, many of us will wake up and remember our past lifetimes. We'll remember our parallel existences. That will be a part of our awakening. But we're certainly not here to time travel. Time travel is a real select thing that probably only a few beings on the planet have done and will be able to handle, with the exception of these technologies. There are people that are traveling using these technologies and these portals, and it's going to hurt their minds and bodies. It really is. It's going to hurt their minds and bodies. It's not great. It's not great for those humans who are doing that in the governments. And they come back changed. They come back with technologies that could destroy the planet. They come back with technologies that could heal the planet. They come back with incredible information. Again, some of which is harmful, some of which is not. So I don't think that just any of us should pop into those portals and just start using them. We're here for different reasons other than that. And we have our hands full with our own awakening, right? And just kind of saving the planet, raising our children, and being human. We're here to be human, right? And it's just a different thing. It's a different thing than remembering your past lifetimes and waking up. It's different than that. It can't even be put in the equation of spiritual awakening, because that's not what ascension looks like. Tampering with the future is not what ascension looks like. Ascension looks like bringing your full self into the now, bringing your full self into the now, right? Yeah. Oh, absolutely. They do. Wolf Mother, those two do time travel all the time. And I'm not feeling like politicians should be the right ones to be doing that. But look at how it's desecrating their bodies and some of their minds. Look at that as well. Okay. Questions. Do we have any more questions? Why were there cattle mutilations? That's the fault of the Skinwalker. Those are the Skinwalkers live off of that. And they have the extraterrestrial technology to directly take the blood force, the life, and the plasma. They're feeding off of the plasma that is in blood of animals. They're not allowed to do it in humans. That used to be the case, that humans would die there. But those original Skinwalkers are mutilated beings who got trapped on our planet. Their DNA is very deconstructed and different, and they will live off of the plasma, which is their life force in the blood. They're not allowed to kill humans. They're not allowed to have that kind of intervention. The council won't let them kill you, but they can warn you. They can hurt you. They can make you go nuts, but they can't feed off of your plasma blood. But that's why they mutilate the cattle, because they actually want that plasma, and they can drain many of the cattle that they found were completely just drained of blood. And when you look at cattle mutilations all around the world, there seems to be a commonality with the blood being drained for that reason. Just shut up and levitate, somebody said. Why? What are we going to get with that? What is levitation? Why do we all want to do these things? I try time travel a lot, and I bring back information that I think the world is ready to handle. And then what do? You beat me up. You troll me. You don't like it. It doesn't work well. And time is perpetually changing anyway. So what good has it done? We still have to look at that. Should humans from the future even continue? Because I can give you only a timeline, and then you're going to change it anyway. So in that sense, knowing the future, I'm not sure how much is going to help you. because people are attached to time in a way that you're like you're looking at it like predictive valuation systems versus just understanding parallel interdimensionality, which is why it isn't helping yet. Once again, I come to Earth when humanity isn't ready. Once again. Are you still strength training? No, I'm recovering right now. I'm recovering right now. I'm not allowed to strength train. I can't lift. Yeah, but yeah, I require strength training for this form and to be able to do any sort of time traveling and bilocation and to bring you back any information, I require strength training. So I'm not doing a lot of bilocating right now and humans from the future because it desecrates my form without strength training. And that is why I love sports because it just keeps me grounded enough to be able to do it for you. But as long as humanity can't handle it, I don't know for how long I'm going to be doing it. Yeah. Will governments ever use those portals for the benefit of humans? When they have to. Right now, they're using it for the benefit of power and control. No, please don't change the topic, guys. Yeah, exactly. Knowing your future automatically changes it, someone's saying in chat. And you can find a lot of value out of that if you want to change it, and the change is helping you and keeping you healthier and happier. But many people want to use timelines as if it's a one factor truth. You're like, this is what's going to happen, so go do that. But that's not how time works. And it's that it shows you a glimpse. The future shows you a glimpse, and then you get to decide if you like it or not. If it's beneficial, is it healthy? Is it loving? Or is it harmful? Right? So, when I tell you the future and then something else happens, that means I did my job. Does that make sense? You did If I tell you the future and you don't like it and then something else happens, that's exactly what I wanted. But that will make me incredibly unpopular as a psychic because humans in the future are not meant for psychic readings. That's not what they're there for. The council's there for that, but humans from the future are not there for that. They're there to help you change time. Okay. So I will leave it there. I'm going to go spend some time with my family. I hope you enjoyed this podcast and this perspective and the channeled information that came through the Galactic Council of Nine, right? And I will see you really, really soon. I feel like I need to bring about another world's predictions for August. I know we just did July and August, but there's more that's happening now that I didn't get a chance to cover. So I would like to come on again later this week for another world predictions. And then we're going to get into our Galactic History series with the Syrians up next. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.